Hi, I'm Steve Gedeon, a professor at one of the largest entrepreneurship programs in the world at Ryerson University in Toronto, Canada. But today I'm coming from my cottage up in Muskoka near Parry Sound. And welcome to the first of the tools. This is tool number 1, the Wheel of Life. So far we have talked about the difference between planning and searching. Planning is like farming, searching is like hunting. You're not sure what you're trying to look for, you're not sure what your goals are, you're trying to discover what your interests are. And I'm assuming one of the primary things that you're interested in right now is a career and a job and the things that you're good at and the things that you want to do and the things that you're interested in, and there's people that want to hire you to do this kind of stuff. But you're not exactly sure whether it's full-time employment or a startup or some other kind of an entrepreneurial path, or maybe you might want to travel, but there's a lot of stuff to consider. So you're just on the start of your search. And the tools for searching are very different than the tools for planning. And because of this, we are giving you a number of principles. So in the module series, I'm covering all the principles. We've got 11 different modules that we're going to be covering in the module series. And that was professionally done with the help of the Business Innovation Hub. And I'm now working on Camtasia, doing this on my own up here at the cottage, so I'm disconnected from the internet. And here it is, sunset over our lake. So the first principle is the bird in the hand principle. And you really start with your means, that unlike managers that can manipulate means to achieve their goals in the planning side, that as an entrepreneur, you only kind of have whatever you start with. And you're really starting with nothing but your character, your human capital, and your social capital. It's not just what you know, it's who you know. And so social capital for getting into 80% of the job market and figuring out what you want is really important. So this is 3 of the important aspects. There's other things as well, too, we could be talking about. But the major ones are these 3. So the bird in the hand principle is the first of the entrepreneurial principles. It's you start with what you've got. And these are the things that you've got. So you should understand what you've got at your disposal. If you're out hunting, you want to know what your weapon is. And if it's a gun, you should cherish your gun and take care of your gun and know that your gun is going to work. And this is why Marines and people like that really know their weaponry. They can disassemble it, they can reassemble it, they keep it clean. It's their means of survival. And since this is the only thing they've got out there, and it's a dangerous world, then if the only thing you got is a gun, take care of your gun. That's true of whether you're a woodsman or an outdoorsman or a Marine, as I mentioned, but also if you're an entrepreneur. You got what you got, you should know what your tools are at your disposal. Artistic image of this that you'll see later on is the idea of Michelangelo's Davide. He's David slaying Goliath. He doesn't have much at his disposal, but what he does have at his disposal is a sling, and a belief in the righteousness of his cause and his own abilities, and he defeats Goliath. And this is the classic story of the entrepreneur overcoming the giant or the Goliath, the premier warrior of David's time. In your time, it could be Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Apple, whoever. This is the first principle, and this is the first tool. Now, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here and show you that in the second principle, we talk about this design thinking diamond, and divergent versus convergent thinking. This is the experimental method. This is the scientific method, that it doesn't matter what's in your head or what your beliefs are. You got to test everything against reality. And so the design thinking diamond is a way to do divergent and convergent thinking. We cover that in the second principle, which you might not have gotten to yet. But here we are in principle number 1. So you start with your bird in the hand and figuring out what your character and your human capital and your social capital is. And we're going to use tool number 1 and this divergent, convergent thinking pair. And we're going to arrive at a series of several design challenges. So we're going to look for a design challenge in your looking towards a job or an entrepreneur. We're looking for a second design challenge related to a side hustle or a startup opportunity or a gig or a Shopify store, some kind of other thing that you do nominally to make money. A third design challenge is related to social capital or social change making or volunteer work or something that you actively do to get connected and to build your human capital outside of your job. So any kind of sort of volunteering work that you do to enhance your resume, things like that. The fourth one of the design challenges is going to be related to your human capital or your character out of the bird in the hand principle. And the fifth one I'm going to be suggesting you work on is overall balance in your wheel of life. So here's the wheel of life tool. The first step of the wheel of life is to build your wheel of life. So let's talk about that. It's called the wheel of life because it has to spin. It has to be in balance in order for your life to be happy. If you're out of control in one aspect of your life, or you're flat in one aspect of your life, then your wheel doesn't spin and you're not going to be happy. So that's why it's called the wheel of life. And you want some balance over the overall trajectory of your life. So I've divided this wheel of life into essentially three quadrants. One related to bird in the hand principle, one related to your career, and one related to the other stuff in your life. So here's the first one we're covering here. So it includes your character, the things that you think about, your habits, your values, your interests, your beliefs, the things that make you you, that affect your trustworthiness, your competence, your integrity, things like that. Second slice I'm giving it here, I'm related to human capital, which is your knowledge, skills, and attitudes. So you're probably going to be focusing on your university, your schooling, reading books, lifelong learning and other videos and stuff like that as you go through the course of your career. But for right now, you probably have a lot of specific requirements related to education if you're a student. On the social capital side of things, it's mostly events that you go to, organizations that you're a member of, relationships that you have through other established communication channels that you've established over the course of your life. The next major third I've said is your career. This is your job, the stuff that earns you money. Then there's all the stuff you do outside of your job that's related to building your human capital and your social capital, related to doing a side hustle or some kind of a startup or self-employment or some other kind of a gig. Nominally, this is usually revenue bearing, and so you tend to have a job and some kind of something on the side that gets you positioned for your second job or your next job. It's also building your social connections. It could be related to a social change-making project or some volunteer work, but stuff that you do to enhance your resume and your career potential outside of your current job. Third major aspect is related to things like your health, that's sports, play, friends, family, love, and spiritual or religion or what other belief systems or interest areas that you have in your life. So here's an example of a template for my wheel of life here, which I just covered, but here now it's kind of leaving some room to put in some space and play with. Okay, so the next step is go through each slice in your wheel and write down nominally on Post-it notes what are the things that you're doing in each area. What are your interest areas? What are you currently working on? What are your current jobs? What jobs are you interested in? What events and stuff you're currently going to. Start by capturing what your current interests are in your wheel of life. Could be just your responsibilities, your activities, projects that you're involved in, events that you go to. Ideally, use Post-it notes and fill in your wheel of life. This is a divergent thinking phase. You're trying to get a lot of data, so you want a lot of Post-it notes to work with. So the goal is you're trying to fill up your wheel of life here. Then go around as well, not just to fill it up with Post-it notes, but kind of think about what's your level of satisfaction in different areas. Are you missing certain things? Are there certain problems that are bigger than others? Certain things that bring you more joy in your life and things that cause you unhappiness in your life that you need to figure something around. So go through and rate your happiness level and your challenges in each slice, as well as your overall balance. So this is a way to check your pulse. It's to go through and say, is your wheel of life in spin? What do you want to work on in this class? What do you want to work on your life? What are some of your major issues and challenges that you're working on? So you start by creating your wheel of life, and then you fill it in with Post-it notes. And here I show you an example of the wheel of life with a bunch of little Post-it notes written on it. And here's an example. I didn't have Post-it notes. I'm up here at the cottage, so I drew it on my tablet instead. So this is an illustration of a bunch of Post-it notes. You can see, on the play thing, he's got a soccer ball going on and barbells, and he's making money at his job as a bartender there. He's got his little martini glass here. Goes to some events on the social side of things. This hypothetical individual maybe is involved in not just getting a BCom at Ryerson University, for example, maybe being associated with TRSS or some other social clubs. Here's an example that I sketched here up at the cottage related to what my life looked like pre-COVID-19. So this was my design challenge, was what am I starting with? And so going around, starting at 12 o'clock, I'm a tenured professor at Ryerson University, an associate professor in the Ted Rogers School of Management, and I've got a variety of obligations there. There's a three-legged stool. Usually they refer to as teaching, research, and service. So on the teaching side of things, you can see I've got a big list of here. I teach the 2-year experiential capstone stream, ENT 56AB and 78AB. That's a 4-semester long, 2-year set of courses for the ENT major degree program. I'm also now teaching ENT 401, and I do a little bit of work with our MBA program. So that's really what I get paid for in my primary job on the teaching side. On the research and publication side, I do 1 to 5 publications a year. Publish or perish, right? At Ryerson University has obligations for this. On the service component of my job at Ryerson University, I'm chair of the curriculum committee and get involved in hiring people on search committees and things like that. I do a lot of teacher evaluation work. There's a lot of work to be done. On my side hustle side of things, I also am involved with a lot of stuff internationally. I work with Fraunhofer Venture and Baron Associates. I help people with deep intellectual property connect with Fortune 500 companies in strategic partnerships or investments and mergers and acquisitions. So that's my side hustle stuff that I do to also earn money outside of Ryerson University. I do some university-based stuff as well too. I've listed I do a lot of teaching at the University of Bologna, Unibo. I'm teaching the global MBA program there, the Bologna Business School. I work with the PhD program at Unimore, the University of Modena e Reggio Emilia in the Emilia-Romagna area in Italy. Fondazione Goldenelli, starting to get to be more of a social venture side of things. On the social venture side, I'm working with the Future Food Institute, Food Innovation Program, National Angel Capital Organization. And on the social capital side of things at Ryerson University, I'm involved at the Ryerson Entrepreneur Institute. Please go to the website. There's a lot of information there for students, for companies to invest in the future of co-curricular education. And I have a section for academics and educators as well. So I have a section on the REI website for educators on best practices in entrepreneurship education, which is a big part of the activities that I'm involved in. I work with Enactus and Strashik Center, and I do a lot of train-the-trainer programs with Connect and also EntreTime. On the character and human capital side of things, I read over 15 books a year on average, self-talk, journaling, and I have a lot of goal setting. I'll be talking about that later on in the program. On the spiritual side of things, I recently took a grad course in philosophy. My ex-wife was a philosophy professor, and so I have a deep interest in philosophy. So that's the stuff that I keep on top of with my spiritual side of things. On the family slice, there's my primary relationship, the love of my life, Catherine. But there's also some design challenges related to my parents. My parents are getting older, live in a different country. My dad can't see very well. Facebook isn't really doing it for us. I'm looking for something else to do with my family side of things as a design challenge. On the health side of things, doctors, men of a certain age, got to worry about all that stuff and stay on top of exercise and everything. On the play side, under COVID-19, I've got some challenges related to my friends getting together with. I haven't seen friends in a long time. Haven't been able to play with my bands. A lot of challenges related to that. Also on that health and sports and play side of things, a big piece of my life was sailing for many years, and I recently sold my sailboat, so I'm looking to replace that as one of my design challenges. So this figure here kind of captures what are some of the major interest areas in my life. You can see it's kind of full on the number of projects. There's a lot of things going on the work-related side, on the side hustle side, on the social side. It might be nice to cut some of those things down. There's going to be a tremendous impact due to COVID-19 on my teaching and international travel. I've been traveling in Europe extensively over the last decade with my sabbatical and teaching over there and working in Germany and Italy and all the international connections I've made. That's challenging in the time of COVID. I won't be able to travel there as much. What am I going to do to change about that? Should I change my research goals? Are there best practices related to distance education? My field of research is entrepreneurship education, as you can see on the REI website. And so what do I need to do to adapt? What do I need to do to adapt to this change? One of the principles we'll learn later is to turn lemons into lemonade. With COVID-19 come opportunities. So what opportunities are there to improve on best practices? And this is linked to my human capital. Obviously, I need to read up on this, figure this out. A lot of my previous social change-making projects have been thrown into chaos due to COVID-19, so I'm looking for something else to replace that with. Ideally, something to put money into the economy. I've been saving money for a rainy day through the Ryerson Entrepreneur Institute, and so it's a rainy day, so I want to open up the purses and get some money into students' pockets and see what I can do about that. I could do that through a variety of places: Enactus, REI, Future Food Institute, National Angel Capital Organization, Fondazione Golinelli, something to be figured out. I need to replace sailing and get some more regular exercise, as I mentioned, more frequent, more engaging conversations with my parents, replace jamming, and not sure what to do on the spiritual side of things. I want to cut down on my number of projects. Should I sign up for a second-year course? Or should I do something else? Maybe skip it for a year. Anyway, I'm brainstorming. I'm looking for data to use to do the next phase. So the next phase is to look for patterns. Now that you've generated a lot of data, move your Post-it notes onto a 2x2 matrix or something like that. You could plot, for example, importance versus urgency, or things that you want to do versus things that you have to do. So diagrammatically, this is what this looks like. That's we're now going to take all those Post-it notes off of our wheel of life and move them onto these 2x2 matrix. So the idea is you want to visualize and manipulate the information. You're going to learn about this in principle number 2, this idea, and also in principle number 3, this idea of visualization and manipulating these Post-it notes to rearrange the information, because you're trying to grapple with things that are more complex than you can deal with using other methods. So manipulating the Post-it notes is really important. I show a bunch of these in some of the ELCD modules. Here's a quick example of one of the previous ones that I had done of a 2x2 matrix, level of interest versus time. This was some of my goals that I had on different Post-it notes. The purple arrow shows there's a lot of changes. Some things that, like going to Italy, that's all been pushed into the future. Some of them, like my ECLD thing now, has been made important and urgent and trying to get it made for distance education. So some of these Post-it notes moved around. So example of some of the patterns that I noticed by manipulating my Post-it notes. I need to reduce the number, not just projects, but meetings, publications, courses. I just want to cut down on the overall number of things that I'm doing. Also, a big pattern emerges related to learning and implementing best practices in distance education. Could include high-quality videos, new content. There's a whole new area around community of interest that I've become interested in, and I'm thinking about doing a module on this while I'm up here as well too, to insert into the course. Publications on the future of work and the effect of all this thing, and how entrepreneurship can be used to react to emergencies like the COVID emergency. So that's an area of design challenge, or a pattern that came in different areas of my wheel of life. I want to integrate my reading, writing, and content creation around learning some new things for my own human capital as well. And maybe get this COVID thing related to distance education as well too. Certainly any team of students that I hire to react to the COVID emergency will have to help people do things by distance, and so some of the skills I would hire for would be related to maybe video editing to help me with the videos that you're watching. But this is just a design pattern or a design challenge that was emerging at this time. Okay. So finally, you want to capture your learnings. Write down your top 5 career challenges, document them, put them in writing, document your process, take photos of your work, and then iterate to improve your wheel if you see any changes, and capture any insights. So here's the 5 career-related design challenges I'm suggesting. One related to your job. That's the 1 o'clock position. The side hustle, startup, self-employment gig, that's the 2 o'clock position. Social capital, social venture, volunteering, change-making project, that's around the 3 o'clock position on my wheel of life. Human capital, character, that's around 4, 5, 6 o'clock. And then the overall balance in your life, a challenge related to each of those. Here it is diagrammatically. You start with kind of sort of building your wheel, and then you fill your wheel full of Post-it notes, and then you manipulate and rearrange those Post-it notes using convergent thinking techniques in 2x2 matrices and selecting the important ones. Finally, you capture that in the final one in a revised wheel of life with your 5 design challenges articulated. So, an example of my design challenges very quickly are: how might I reduce the number of projects while also retaining all my international social networks? I can't just drop all of these important contacts. So how do I kind of sort of keep all the balls up but reduce the overall number, somehow consolidate them or make them linked more? Second one is: how might I start producing very high quality videos for content for my courses while also learning new skills and methods? And this would be for all 3 of my courses, as well as the Train the Trainer program, which I'm doing for university professors. So not just making videos for students in my courses, but also making videos for professors for a Train the Trainer program that I'm involved in with EntreTime and Connect2U and people like that. Another one: how might we hire Business Career Hub students to work on relevant COVID-related social change-making project and put money into the economy, in particular put money into students' pockets, and leverage government programming, but also help me with the video editing and technology and stuff like that. And finally, I have some questions around how to publish best practices for distance education. Since coming up with this, I've already published my first one in a book entitled Teaching in the University of the 21st Century. It's a book chapter I did with Professor Ken Grant, chair of the Entrepreneurship and Strategy Department here at TRSM. And finally, I'm working on a new publication on the future of work and the importance of entrepreneurship, and a lot of the tools I'm talking about here for this program. I'm hoping to leverage what I'm doing here to put this in this publication. So just to let you know where we're going now, this is tool number 1, and the first 4 tools I think of as being related to your first diamond. So even though for each tool we'll go through a double diamond, I think of tool number 1 as being essentially a divergent thinking tool. Tools number 2 and 3 are essentially divergent thinking tools, and tool number 4 is an inherently set of convergent thinking tools. So by the time you get through going through tools 1 through 4, you should have really gotten your mind around what your 5 primary design challenges are, to create a set of 5 design challenges, which I show here in the diagram. Then for each of these 5 design challenges, you go through and identify a customer and use user-centric customer discovery in the remainder of the course. So the first 4 tools are the first diamond, but tools 5 through everything else are these double diamond design challenges that you'll be working on. So once you get through this first set of 4 design thinking tools and have converged on your 5 design challenges, I'm asking you to focus primarily on 1 or 2 of these design challenges that are user-centric based. Tool number 5 and module number 5 are based on user centricity, and that will then focus on this new double diamond, and the rest of the tools will be based on the double diamond and customer segment aspects of the course. Okay, so here's the list of assignment again. This is also in the workbook. I talk about this as well too. So if you'd like feedback on your assignments, I'm asking you to agree to an open access sharing and to give it to me at least 24 hours so I can look at it, anonymize it as appropriate, and have time to look at it and give feedback in the class. So if you'd like feedback on these assignments in class, be sure to upload them to D2L at least 24 hours in advance. If you don't want me to talk about this or use your materials in any way, then let me know about that. Otherwise, if you've uploaded it early or if you've shared it through the discussion forums, then I'm going to assume that you're giving this for the open access sharing. This has been a long one. I hope the light still works for you. Remember, entrepreneurship is like learning how to play the guitar. Get out there and practice. Crank it up to 11.